Hello, welcome to Art in the Digital World. I'm your host, Brandon Towne. This week we have Joe Marchal on the show. Thank you very much for coming onto the show.
Oh, my pleasure.
So tell me a little bit about your background. We were talking about school before, so go ahead and tell me about that.
We actually moved here when I was young from England, and the town we moved from over there was kind of right in the heart of the Industrial Revolution. You know, the old fabric, cloth, and sewing, kind of the cloth mill area. You know, and I think that really is the basis of why we got involved in this business. You know, at its very basis.
Okay. So tell me what the business is. What's the name of the company again?
It's called Precision Technical Sewing.
Okay.
And basically, we run it out of our property, right up in Mountain Ranch area. And what we do is we kind of use the internet and the phone and emails and such, and also UPS and FedEx and the shipping agencies, and we do it all through sort of technology and and through the shipping. And so we kind of look at it as maybe as sort of a model for future businesses. Actually, when the internet gets a little bit better around here, maybe more people will be doing this sort of thing. And
you guys sew materials together to make different covers, or what is it again?
It's really hard to pigeonhole it because we do so many different things. But to put it in a nutshell, attempt to put it in a nutshell, we create special environments in order for things to operate correctly, for machines to operate, such as certain temperatures, and there's other things too, like gases and UV and excluding things, and we exclude things as much as anything.
Okay, and you use different materials that have different effects, right? Is that?
That's right. It's sewing, but it's done with an approach to engineering rather than an approach to, like, say, a garment, for comfort or a fit. Yeah. So,
can you tell me about these materials?
I brought these few materials in because I find them interesting. This one here is actually a Teflon, and it's been developed for.
Go ahead and hold it up.
This one's been developed for automatic ovens that break bread. It's made into conveyor belts, and then the material cycles through the oven with loaves of bread on it, and when it comes out the other side, they're baked and done, but the heat doesn't affect it. Also, obviously, being Teflon, nothing sticks to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys manufacture the actual material?
No. Most of our materials come from Pennsylvania, of all places, because that's where they still make cloth in the United States. There's still some cloth manufacturing left there.
Because this is not what I think of when I think of cloth, but I understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm, yeah, it's not cloth in the garment sense.
Not like, garment, right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. Now, do you guys work with the manufacturers of this material? Or is it kind of like they have a whole bunch and you buy what you need, or?
Depending on the material, sometimes we have to actually order it so they weave it as per our order. But in most cases, it's a product of the manufacturer that has a number of applications, and we just happen to find it useful for something we need, such as this.
Okay. Do you find that materials get used for multiple applications, or is it are the materials very specific?
Well, the more specific the material, the more specific the application, kind of. But many materials have, such as this is an insulator. So, anytime you need something that can withstand a lot of temperature without damaging itself, or being used up over time or something like that, this would work for any application.
Mm-hmm. See, now this is what I think of when I think of clothes.
Yeah.
It's softer, and so. So
yeah.
What makes it so insulated?
Well, that is actually, it looks relatively normal, but that is actually carbon boron felt.
Wow.
Yeah, it's actually quite techy. And the benefits of this material is it's really nice to work with. I mean, there's no hazard at all with working with it, And it cuts well, it handles well, and it insulates extremely well. It's also almost fireproof. I actually did an experiment where I threw some of it into the wood stove to see what would happen. And it was an interesting result. It burned like a piece of coal once I got it hot enough.
Wow.
Yeah.
But that's the point of it, is it's supposed to not burn and keep things cool or warm? Is it kind of
Doesn't matter, either
both?
or.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
So it makes it be like a real controlled environment?
Exactly. It helps you to control an environment.
Okay. Does the color play into effect of anything, or?
In this case, no, because it's usually, almost always, it's actually contained within other materials, that sort of protect it, because it being felt, it is fairly delicate, and like a sharp tool would cut it and stuff. So it's usually encased in something a little bit tougher.
Okay. So tell me about this. This caught my eye, as I'm sure it would catch many people's eye. What's this material?
This is some of the tougher stuff that I was referring to.
Okay.
This is Kevlar, and it's coated with aluminum. It has glue that hold the two together, and it's used for high temperature applications where you want to keep heat in, and things like electromagnetic radiation out.
Okay.
That's what the aluminum does. The yellow stuff is the Kevlar, and it's extremely tough.
For such a thin material.
Oh yes, it's incredibly tough. Even a normal pair of scissors won't touch that fabric.
Huh.
You have to have special scissors to work with it.
And Kevlar, isn't that what they use in like the vests, the
It
bulletproof
is.
vests?
It's used for bulletproof vests. Yeah.
Wow.
Actually, it's a fiber that has a lot of different uses.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And for a material like this, or all the materials, so you guys will get an order for something, and then you'll work with the material, right, and sew
Yeah.
it together, and.
Well, oftentimes what we get is somebody calling up saying, I have an idea, and can you make this for me? So usually the task at that point is to get them to give us some kind of a drawing, or some kind of some thoughts about the idea that have been kind of worked out a little bit. And then we typically work with the client to try to come up with a finished object that is what they had in mind.
Do people ever submit napkins with their ideas of what they want on it?
Oh yeah, and we don't really care. It doesn't have to be art. We just want some representation of their idea that has obviously taken them a moment to reach into their thoughts and try to come up with something other than, I want it to be red and square.
And so now there's a designer, you said, that works, and they take those ideas, and what's their sort of process of taking the ideas to the next thing?
Well, Josh is our designer, and he really, he's really an interesting guy. He has a background of working with a lot of different materials and technologies, and and he uses elements from all those backgrounds to come up with ideas, and his ideas are often very innovative, and thoughtful, actually.
And what does he use to create that? He uses does he use computers or drawing or both? Or?
Oh, he uses every trick in the book. He uses everything from typing paper and Scotch tape to design programs, wire, leather, anything and everything. He'll use to try to come up with ideas and come up with a representation of what it is that we're trying to get to. And oftentimes, as the people that are actually trying to get the object to appear in life, sometimes we need those models to look at ourselves, so we know what he's thinking and what he's talking about.
So it sounds to me like it's very specialized. This isn't just something that you would order offline. It's something that, like, a lot of the stuff is really custom order.
It's all custom.
Yeah.
Everything is custom.
Wow.
And we make one or two actual stock items, but practically everything is custom.
Okay.
We basically try to work an object from a concept, or work an object from a concept into an object, and and it can really take on interesting iterations along the way, and oftentimes something that we hadn't quite considered, appears.
And the length of how long it takes to go from, getting the client to the product, I take it varies.
It does, and some of our it depends on what it is. Some of the things are huge, and some of them are tiny, and sometimes they're busy, and sometimes they're slow. So that all feeds into it, and then of course the complexity of the thing too. We've actually worked with spacesuit designers. We've worked with undersea stuff. We do a lot of work with the computer companies in Silicon Valley, and you name it. It's really, that's one of the great things about the work is you never know what you're going to do next. It could be anything.
It's funny because the older you get, the more you realize there's all these little specialized groups of people, and you think of something that you take for granted every day, but there's someone designing that thing, and there's someone who does that thing that maybe you never would see, but it's a part of it. So I have to ask, tell me, however much you can tell me about the spacesuit thing. What did you do with that? Whatever you can tell me.
Well, what we did with that was we made parts for a spacesuit, but in many cases we don't even know what they are, and so we're basically just given plans and a concept, and then we try to work up the object, but then the customer is happy or unhappy, but they go ahead and take it away and use it for their application. But and since you bring up that point, actually quite often we don't know what we're making.
Wow.
Yeah, we're not given disclosure as to what it is we're actually making.
And is there a lot of what do you call it? Checks and balances to the quality assurance of the product to make sure that they get it and it's going to work for their application?
Yeah, there's only a few of us in the business, so within the business itself, there's not really much need for that. But it doesn't have to go through a process as far as we're concerned. We're once it gets into the box and gets shipped, we call it good.
So you don't have to test it in space or underwater or anything like that.
No, and the engineers often will test it. We'll take it back and test it for their application, and then if it's found lacking in some way, then they'll return it to us to modify it some more.
Oh, okay.
Such as trying a different material, or there's a lot of things you don't really think about, especially with sewn things, such as the kind of thread that it's sewn with and stuff like that. But it really does matter.
So once you get the design and you're going to make it, how do you tell me about the process of taking the material, cutting it, sewing? How does that all work?
The designs, we often do what we call small production runs of things. So if we make something like a cover for a machine, we do a lot of covers for machines, various types of machines. Say we're going to make 20 of them or something. In that case, we'll actually commit the design once it's actually being designed using a design program on a computer to a memory stick, and that stick then gets plugged into a computer, and the computer will actually cut the cloth. So the designs get what's the word, committed to this memory stick, and then this is where I come in. I take them into my shop, and then I actually will lay out the cloth so the computer can actually cut it. We have a very large table. It's about 40 feet long by about 10 feet wide, and it has what we call a plotter attached to it. It's basically like a CNC machine, but it's a horizontal CNC machine. It only works in 2 dimensions. And so then, after the thing is designed and the customer is happy with it, we will commit it to these sticks. It'll get put into the machine. It'll be cut on the machine, and then the cloth will be taken to the sewing shop, and it will be assembled in the sewing shop.
And does it in the sewing shop? is it hand sewn, or is that also machine guided, or?
It's all hand sewn at this point. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Anything that would be, that would require a big enough production to commit it to the program to a sewing machine. There are computer controlled sewing machines, but we don't do production runs that big, so we don't bother with that.
And I imagine some of the stuff is a little bit intricate. I know that you can almost make a machine to make anything, but
Yeah.
some of the stuff's a little more intricate where it actually needs people to sew it together. Is that true?
Oh, yes. It pretty much all needs people to sew together. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I imagine you don't use, your mother's sewing machine, the little tiny thing that,
No, no. And a lot of what we do is experimental.
Yeah.
So not even the person that came up with the concept and that we're working with to produce something, not even they know if it will work.
Huh.
And we certainly don't. It's really, that's one of the fun things about the business is, the product of it is as much a surprise to us and the customer as anybody, many times.
So can you tell me a little bit about a specific project that comes to mind, that you did? Like you said, you cover machines,
Yeah.
so is there any ones that stick out in your mind that you can talk about?
I can't think of any right now.
But you guys have been doing this for a long time.
Yes, we've been doing this for a long time. Okay, I can think of one.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a mall back east that wanted the interior to be decorated with a sailboat motif. So what we did was we bought this cloth that is a special cloth that takes prints really well, and we had it printed with with sort of pretty patterns and flowers and colors. Then what we did was we sewed it into triangles and put fiberglass rods in it to represent sails. And these things hung from the wall of the mall, and it was just sort of like this sailing kind of aesthetic,
Okay.
And that was sort of experimental, and it came out well.
Cool. And your job was to cut the pieces, right? Is that?
Yeah, I cut
help?
the pieces.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, cut the pieces and then cut the fiberglass and put it all together and then then shipped it.
Wow. Have you had a chance to go visit the mall? Have you seen it? Or?
No, we saw pictures of it, but we never saw it ourselves. It's back east somewhere.
And were the people happy with it? Or?
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah, we didn't ever hear any complaints.
I guess that's one of those no news is good news.
Yeah, it can be.
Now you say that you did sales before. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, we used to live in the Bay Area before we lived in the foothills, and my whole family, we all worked in the sailboat sale industry, and we got our start really, through sailboat sales. And what happened was the sailboat sale industry sort of died out as time went on because a lot of that stuff went to Asia because you can get labor so much cheaper there. So what happened was we were approached by engineers that asked us if we could make little objects that they needed for their machines, little guards and covers and little various applications. So more and more we started taking on those projects, and then of course we had less and less sailboat sale business coming in. So it actually transitioned from one to the other kind of smoothly. It wasn't without problems, but we happened to be in the right place at the right time. Otherwise we'd be looking for a job.
Mm-hmm. So you make really small stuff sometimes too.
There's really no limits on it. We make small, big. There's stuff that's huge. We're working on some covers right now they're huge. They would cover a small house.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now you were talking about the Kevlar and how, or not the Kevlar, but the insulation and how that would be something inside. So some of the sewing isn't just a matter of putting one piece together. It sounds like there's like layers of pieces for things.
Absolutely, yeah. And each piece has its function. The insulation has a function, an obvious function, but also the Teflon is extremely heat resistant. So you put the Teflon up against the surface of a hot machine, say. The Kevlar is keeps the dust out. It protects the worker from the machine if it were to, be emitting something. And also the aluminum, protects it from electrostatic energy.
Okay.
So each layer has a function, and the engineer engineers will approach us with a problem where a number of problems need to be solved. So each layer solves a problem, if you want to think about it that way.
Does the order of the layer also play into it?
It certainly does, and
Yeah.
not only the order of the layer, but the side of the layer that's up and the side of the layer that's down, and which layers are next to which other layers. So yeah, it has to be put together in a certain way. Definitely.
What about the thread that you use to put it together? What kinds of threads do you use?
We have a number of different threads, and we go all the way from a real conventional cotton thread, just like your clothes are sewn with, all the way to things like fiberglass or Gore-Tex. We have some threads that actually are spun the opposite direction from a regular thread for certain reasons. We run another thread that's stainless steel, very, very fine stainless steel.
Wow. And you said Gore-Tex. What's Gore-Tex? I haven't heard of that.
Gore-Tex is extremely UV resistant. If you're going to put something in the sun, say you make a cover that's going to be sitting in the sun for 10 years. A regular cover, even if the fabric, there are some fabrics capable of taking UV for 10 years, not many, but there's a few. If you sewed those with cotton or Dacron or a normal thread, the cover would fall apart in 5 because the thread would deteriorate. But the Gore-Tex thread, will last many, many years in the sun. So something like that you would use Gore-Tex for.
Interesting.
It has other qualities too, but that's that's an obvious one.
Now, do you get to, or do your company get to test the materials to see like, how much will this withstand this, or do you kind of know that already? Does the engineer know that already?
The materials they're developed with an eye towards engineering type of specifications, such as temperature and strength, things like that. So when we get the materials, they have a list of qualities that they are guaranteed to have. So that's how they become approved by the engineer that calls for the order, that calls for the thing to be made originally. It's more of an engineering perspective than a garment type of perspective.
And then what about like the computer testing for the materials? Does the computer also have those sort of specifications like this can handle this much heat and this will work in this environment? Do they do simulations at all?
No, we don't do that. We take it on at their word that the materials are going to be live up to the standards that they say they're going to.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then whatever it is, if it says, it's going to be 500 degrees, okay, this material is going to be. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we don't take a blowtorch to it and see if it, see if it melts.
Man, I really wish that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although it would be fun.
So, tell me a little bit about your background. I know we talked about you went to school, and I want to know a little bit about that. Tell me where you went to school and what you went to school for.
Well, I was actually always I liked ceramics. I was always into clay and ceramics, and I always liked that medium specifically because it seemed so unlimited to me. It didn't put any limits on your creativity. And in some ways, cloth is the same. Because there's so many different iterations of cloth. So, but ceramics, it kind of led me to looking at materials in a certain way that are helpful to this job. But, of course, it's a very different thing. Clay is a very different thing than cloth. And they haven't really overlapped yet either, by the way. But I went to CCAC in Berkeley, which is it's a little fancy art school, and I couldn't afford it, but don't regret it, I'd do it again, even knowing what I know now.
Being in school in Berkeley, I can imagine.
Yeah. There's nothing cheap about that.
Yeah. Well, I was saying I had a similar experience, and I went to school in San Francisco. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now, do you do any sculpting at all still, or? No?
You know what? I really don't, and it's terrible. I'd love to, but I just don't. And someday I'd love to get back to it, and I really miss it. I really miss it. This is very different because I always saw clay as much more of playing in the mud, Whereas this is much more of a technical thing.
Yeah.
You know, so it doesn't quite fulfill the same thing. You know.
But do you feel a fulfillment when the product's all done and in the box, as you say, and shipped out?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, And you know, as I say, it's often the process is interesting into itself. So, you know, so it does have its interesting side to me, definitely.
Now, how much are you involved with the machines that work the material?
Very little, actually. The machines are mostly the machines we work with are mostly produced in plants for the most part in you know, in San Jose, Santa Clara, Silicon Valley type of businesses. So we'll go down there and measure them, you know, once in a while. But for the most part, it's all done with drawings and, you know, technical drawings. And nowadays you can just send you know, these files of any information you want, you know, down to the infinitesimal detail.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's not really necessary anymore for us to go to the machines. You know, at one time we did, but we don't now.
And how often, or how many people work at this facility?
We have about 4 people now working for us, but we have a few contractors that that we send stuff to, and then they send it back to us. Or there's some things that are very specific and very kind of difficult to sew because of, you know, very tiny. Some things are very tiny or very technical, and we have some people that are very good, and we can't get them to move up here, so we have to send to them.
And do you guys work with other companies that do similar things that you do, or is there sort of like an industry of this kind of specialized?
Nobody really does what we do. You know, we're really one of the only companies that do it. You know, there's nobody that we know of that does what we do. There's some companies that do things like covers for aircraft exhaust and stuff like, you know, like one design thing, so they'll perfect it and they'll just make it over and over, you know, or maybe modify it as a new edition of the airplane comes out or something like that. But nobody really just does it like we do it. You know, we're pretty unique, that I know of at least.
So you guys have worldwide clients?
Yeah, we do. Wow. Yeah, a lot of our stuff ends up in Asia, actually.
Oh wow, cool. Well, Joe, we're about out of time here,
Okay.
so thank you very much. That was very, very interesting. As I said, it's always fun to learn about things that you don't think about. You know, you don't think about a cover for a machine. You know,
No.
who would make that? You know, so
Yeah, it's all got to come from somewhere.
yeah,
hasn't it?
exactly. Well, thank you very much for watching our show, and I'll see you next time.